Hey everyone, happy Friday. Typical Hunks Adventure here. Had the day off, went to my son's preschool graduation. Got there a little bit later than we would have liked, but we were waiting on my in-laws to arrive, which live 2 hours away, and with morning traffic on a Friday, it took them about 3 hours to get here, but I am, rather happy that they were able to make it and we got there in time. He did miss his two friends. They were on the way out, but my son was a bit oblivious. I think there was just too much going on for him to even notice either of them, but I chatted with the kids' parents for a moment. And it was pretty fun. A little bit different than I thought. So we came in and, it's fairy tale themed, so he wore his little cape and had a crown. But they had little crowns that you could make there, and his was actually a bit heavy, so kind of worked out that they had different ones that you can make out of like a cardboard, and then they're able to stick these little things to it to kind of add like jewels to it, so that was cool. And then these little scepters that I'm assuming the teachers kind of made out of stencils with the I don't know what it's called, but it's like the black paper, and you scratch it and then it changes it into like the rainbow colors and things like that. So that was kind of cool. He had his little crown and scepter, and his teacher actually makes balloon animals, so she asked if they wanted a cat or a dog or a dinosaur, and then had the different balloon colors, so he was able to choose from those, and he went with a pink dinosaur. So that was pretty cute, and then we hung out and took some photos in front of like a wall, and then they had a cap and gown that he could wear, so we kind of dressed him up in that for a moment, and then got some of his stuff and headed home, and his sister claimed most of the stuff, so it's kind of silly. But yeah, it's been nice having the in-laws come and visit today. Reminds me that sometimes it sucks living so far away at times, especially where we're at, where it's 2 hours away. When we had first moved out here, it was about an hour or so, and it always just felt like such a drive, and we would do it so often, and we would kind of hate it. And then we ended up moving, and then it turned into an hour and a half, and then we moved again, and now we're about 2 hours away. So I don't know. I would really like that to change. We were hoping to last year, kind of when I was having my midlife crisis. Just we wanted to be closer because we don't have any family or support where we live right now, except for my in-laws, and that 2 hour distance. While it's better than with my actual family, because they live across the country. It's still a lot. It makes it hard to just go and visit someone real quick, or to come down for something like this. And it kind of makes me sad in that sense that we can't visit as often, especially with the kids now, where it's 2 hours is kind of a bit of a drive, especially with them. And when I visit on weekends, if we leave Sunday night, we have to leave early, or try to, so we get home and can unpack and unwind for a moment before needing to go to bed and get up for work on Mondays. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but it's been nice while they're here today. I'm actually just heading out to get some food. I got very lucky because I've always wanted to take them to this restaurant or I guess it's more like a cafe that exists inside of the technical school that I like to go to. I think their prices are reasonable and the food is actually pretty good. But we've never been able to eat there because they are closed on certain days of the week, which don't usually align with when my in-laws visit, or we don't really think about it until the afternoon, and this place closes at 2 p.m. And around like 1:30, I just happened to look. I was like, oh hey, it says they're closing soon, so they close at 2. So I tried to hurry and scramble and say, hey, can everyone think of what they want, or show them the menu. Of course, it's hard to find a menu online, which is not super ideal, but was able to make note of pretty much everything, and then like 1 or 2 people are still trying to decide. But while they're doing that, I was like, you know what, let me just call now and make sure that they are still taking orders. 30 minutes to close, because it's going to take them about 15 minutes to make everything. And yeah, the lady paused for a moment. I'm just like, yeah, we can make food. And so I started giving her order slowly to give my in-laws some time to figure out what they wanted. And we got everything ordered, so heading out to get that now. So that'll be nice. Kind of see how that goes. Hopefully the food's still alright. Hopefully they got everything correct. But yeah, with the in-laws, it's got me thinking. This year kind of feels almost like last year in certain aspects, where I dealt with some depression early on in the year, and just a lot of stuff racing through my mind. Instead of taking notes, now it's mostly just me kind of documenting stuff like I'm doing now with these videos, just kind of going through what's going on in life in general. Uncertainties with work, still have those. Work is still chaotic. I don't know if I'll miss the day where I'm not seeing notifications and things coming through on my phone for stuff going on at work, even though I'm out today. It seems like it's a pretty chaotic day in the office, so yeah, it's never a dull moment sometimes. And sometimes that can be stressful when you just want to unwind and disconnect, and you still see that stuff come in. I'm not answering any of it, of course, because it's not directed to me, but I'm still getting those alerts. So I got that, and then there's a bit of imposter syndrome in a sense with the trying to learn a lot of the new AI tech coming in and just everything else. It's a big rush and trying to feel like I'm good enough or understanding enough of that, and everything along those lines. And then the uncertainties with maybe not in this case with my son, but sort of with my son, and in terms of me being remote, waiting to hear how that is going to play out, and needing to speak with my boss on that, and see what can be done. And if not, then is moving an option? And then that kind of plays into last year, where we were originally looking into moving as well up to Idaho. But the issues with that is just the houses are a lot older. There's not a lot of options. The floor plans aren't that great. It's extremely limited. And if we're going to move up that way, I feel like we just need to move into the same city. I don't want to live 30 minutes away or 20 minutes away or whatever the case may be, because then it's just like at that point, it's like we might as well be there so that we have more support. My in-laws are teachers, and they can have Oliver at the school with them and everything like that, and I think that would be kind of cool. And yeah, we'll have to see, just kind of playing out. But it does kind of feel like last year all over again, but in different ways, so, which isn't bad. I feel like last year kind of worked out to be pretty good, so hoping that same kind of energy comes into this year as well for me. So, but that's gonna do it for this chat right now. I'm getting to the tech school, so I'm gonna go pick up food. If I can think of anything else to chat about, then it'll be added on after this bit then. Alright, finally got the food. Took a bit longer than expected, but that's fine. It was kind of a big order for 5 adults, 2 children, so I figured it was going to take a bit of time in there. I did give them like a $12 tip. I don't know if the workers get any of that or where the tip money technically goes, especially when it's electronic, but yeah, hopefully they got all the food right, so I guess we'll find out once I get home. But yeah, I made sure to tell them I appreciated them taking my order, because it's now 2:07. They closed at 2. I know one of the workers was trying to get started on cleaning up, while the other one was still kind of wrapping up some of the cooking there. So I know no one wants to be held up, especially if they have other things going on and are trying to end on time. So I was very appreciative of that, and hopefully my tip goes to them for that as well. And yeah, one cool thing with the school was as soon as I walked in, and I've seen on their Instagram page they're doing their mental health awareness month, I believe, And so they had stickers and little cards and things you could take with information, as well as some candy. And they also had a cool little coloring book. So here I'd bring the coloring book home for my kids. They can kind of have fun with that too. And one thing I thought about while I was in there, before I left the house, my sister-in-law was saying, she's like, oh, they sugar cookies. And well, they do, and they make pretty good food from scratch there, even with some of the desserts and stuff they have. It might have just been one bad batch the one time we got them, but we tried the sugar cookies once from there, and for some reason it just tasted like dried squid, which is odd, for two reasons. So one thing, I love dried squid, which is odd in itself because I don't really like seafood. I'm not one that likes pretty much any kind of fish or clams or anything like that. But I do love dried squid. I tolerate some calamari if it's made well. And of course I love like shrimp scampi, popcorn shrimp, stuff like that. But I don't like cocktail shrimp. I don't want anything cold or anything like that either. I don't eat sushi. Love dried squid. And for some reason the cookies tasted like that, which was a bit off-putting, mainly because the texture and everything, it didn't really go well together. It's all around weird. And my wife doesn't like dried squid, but she loves seafood, so it's kind of interesting how that works out too. But even she agreed that's what the cookies had tasted like. So I was like, you know what, maybe I won't buy them this time because I don't want to spend money. And then my sister-in-law doesn't like them and they do taste like that still, then we're just kind of left with them. But sometimes that's the reality of things, right? You try something once, and one time maybe it was something that just went bad and everything else is fine. It's just like if you eat at a restaurant, maybe you go somewhere you've never been before, and it has great reviews and everyone loves it, and you go the one time that the service just happened to be bad. Maybe everyone was having a bad day, maybe people were filling in for others and they didn't have a cook for the day, maybe something went bad and the meat that day wasn't good or something happened and it wasn't just you and others got sick. But those other people have gone, time after time after time and have never had problems. So, they know. It's like, something must have just went wrong this time. But as a new time person going somewhere, you might be like, oh, yeah, this place isn't good, I'm not going back. And I feel like the same could be said for, even products like that. So, will I give it another try? Probably. We've done that with certain restaurants or places that we've gone to where things haven't been great. I think a coffee shop here in town wasn't the greatest the first time we went, and I went a second time, and it was surprisingly good. I even got their free membership and signed up. I was like, all right, I think things will work out. And then I went back another time, and it was just horrible. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, it's too inconsistent for me. So I stopped kind of going there. But the tech school, I'm glad they were open long enough for me to get the food and everything like that. I'm heading back now. Place, I always just love going there. It brings back so much nostalgia for me from when I went to a tech school and got my degree in network and database. And just thinking about if I ever want to start a new career, if I'd want to go there, and things like that. Although it is interesting, I was sharing with my father-in-law. I don't remember if I mentioned this in another video, so I apologize. But just like seeing. So they're building this big new shopping plaza just outside of my neighborhood, and it's amazing what some of these jobs pay in retail. Now, of course, basic retail isn't going to pay very good, but the store managers, or like a co-manager, makes over $100,000 a year, and I think one of the other store managers that I saw, it was pretty much like what I make. Maybe it was $5,000 higher, but I think it was kind of like a in-between thing. So it was like $30,000 under or $5,000 higher than what I currently make. But I was just like, wow. I was like, kind of makes you think it's like doing all this stressful stuff of coding and all this other stuff. You could just be doing that. But every job has its ups and downs, pros and cons, things going on. With my job right now, it's like I work remote. I have a handful of meetings that I'm in. Otherwise, I kind of just work on my own stuff. You're not really dealing with customers. You're not on the phone. You're not up needing to walk around. Whereas if you're a store manager, then you're constantly, working on, upkeep, or just making sure the store looks good. Probably working with customers. If you're walking around, making sure your employees got everything going on. And then there's a whole other thing with that, employee relations and everything like that. And dealing with any kind of disgruntled customers you may have, and probably scheduling and all of that, which, you really wouldn't have some of that in corporate world because that's kind of handled outside of that. But yeah, every job has its, stressors like that. If, people call out sick and you don't have anyone filling in, then that's kind of stressful. And does that mean you need to hop on registers and do your managerial, things as well? Who's to say? But yeah, it's always interesting. And, then there's different things like benefits and stuff like that you might have, PTO, flexibility, especially like days of the week and holidays and stuff like that are going to be different for those kinds of jobs. And one could argue, sitting all day isn't that great for you, whereas, standing all day, maybe that's not as great either. But if you're moving around the floor and, picking up items or putting stuff away, doing shipping, receiving, then I think that's kind of good on the body, honestly, to be, moving about. And you could do the same working from home, if you have a standing desk that you're using, or you just decide to, move about in your office as well. I think that kind of works out too, instead of just, sitting all the time. And I got to turn here. We've got some crazy park sprinklers shooting like 18 feet across and like all over the road. And I got cars swerving, people, I saw someone on their bike, I was wondering why they swerved out of the way in the road earlier. It's because I guess that sprinkler is coming, but yeah, it is interesting. A lot of businesses popping up probably within the next couple of months here, which will bring a lot of jobs, but mostly just low-paying ones for people getting in the retail or in the service industry, especially for restaurants. But yeah, I don't know. It always makes me wonder what I would do if I wasn't in the tech world anymore or in corporate. But yeah, there's pros and cons to it all. Especially when it comes down to pay, benefits, flexibility. I like being able to take my son to things and see him for things like graduation and all of that, or if I'm like sick and dying, and being able to take those days off. And a lot of that isn't going to fly as easily in retail or other jobs where they really need you. So just stuff to keep in mind. But that's going to do it for this one. So thank you for coming along with me on this car ride. But stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.